Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast. I'm Adam Cruz with Mike Hickman and Kyle Bennett. We've got a
What?
Yes.
Yeah, we got the special guest, the main man from deep South Louisiana. But guess who is the deepest Southerner tonight? That is me, Adam Cruz. Yes, most of the time I'm up in Tennessee, but today I'm in the Dominican Republic. So, you guys, I am the most Southerner of us all. Wouldn't you guys agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. You are. You win this round.
I always feel kind of like the
y'all
Yankee in some
normally
ways.
give me the title of being most Southerner, though, so I'm not sure that logic works.
No, I've never gave you that.
I might be the most Northerner Southerner.
Yeah.
Is Florida in the South?
It's debatable.
I would say North Florida definitely is in the South. And
That's
I would
true.
say parts of South Florida are definitely in the South. Tampa Bay area, not so much. But
So what are the unsouth parts of Florida? Where are they
pretty much
from?
Orlando.
Where are they from?
New York,
Oh, okay. So
Pretty much.
they're Yankees.
And-
Displaced
and,
Yankees.
Ontario. Those
Oh,
are-
gee.
my area specifically has a lot of people from Ontario.
So
Just in the winter months.
do you guys
okay.
consider Tennessee a southern state? Yes or no?
Yes.
Kyle?
I mean, you did tell me you don't like honey buns.
I do
And
like.
I don't know how.
I don't even know how you would say that. I've never said that I didn't like honey buns. One of my favorite food groups.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then you can be Southern.
I mean, it goes
I
with
count
Sundrop.
anybody in the South that says they're from the South. So Kentucky, West Virginia, Missouri, Oklahoma. If y'all want to subscribe to the podcast, you're in the South as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, man. I mean, I do get a
Even-
little bit
you know
offended
what?
when people say Tennessee's not in the South. I mean, it's offensive, really.
I want to include Michigan in the South because we got a lot of listeners from Michigan. They're good supporters, and they have crappy hunting ground just like we do.
And it's like a top 5 state for our podcast, legitimately.
That's because John Eberhardt.
They're all in the southern part of Michigan, though.
Yeah, okay.
The deep
They're
south
all
part
in
of
like
Michigan.
they're in the UP. They're in southern Canada.
It's like in the thumb, right?
I don't think that's where the thumb is.
Oh, okay.
So we got all three of us. Why are all three of us here?
Well, all three of us are here because I'm in the Dominican Republic. Didn't think that I'd be able to join this podcast. Kyle graciously agreed to join the podcast and help you co-host this one, being the turkey hunter that he is. He loves to talk some turkey, but come to find out, I was able to pick up enough Wi-Fi to do this, and we just thought, hey, let's give it a go. Let's all try to do it.
I'm just happy you could make it, Adam.
No, you're not. I don't believe that.
I thought I was here because y'all just wanted to hear my silky smooth southern drawl.
I just wanted you here so we can make fun of you saying that later.
Yes, because we do that offline, not in our normal Facebook group message.
Just in the message between Adam and I.
Yeah,
Oh, the one I'm left out of.
the super special one.
For those of you who don't know, the three of us have a group message, and it's basically just us each taking turns insulting one another. Pretty much goes on all day, 24/7, all the time.
Which really spills over into the Hunting in the South group. So if y'all want to be in it on the making fun of us, then you can join that group as well and join in the fun.
All right. So what do we got tonight?
Well, we have Michael Lee of Backwoods Life TV, and this dude is one turkey-killing, deer-killing fool, and we have some interesting topics, I would say. So if I would definitely suggest for all of our listeners to listen to the very end, because I would say the last 5 minutes are pure gold. I mean, that was a good conversation.
Michael's not afraid to tell it like it is. It's no holds barred. He's brutally honest about what he feels and the way he does things. So I think that's what I like most about this.
Without a doubt. Well, without further ado, let's get Michael on the phone.
Let's do it.
I just want to take a quick second to say thank you to Nomad Outdoors. If you're not rocking Mossy Oak Bottomland in the Turkey Woods this year, you might want to reconsider that. And also a big shout out to Mike's company, huntinggeardeals.com. After you find a sweet deal on Hunting Gear Deals, hit us up on Facebook at the Hunting in the South Facebook group. That is the best way to engage with other southern hunters. You'll see all kinds of turkey kills across the South, and trail camera pictures of deer are sure to come very, very soon. Just got a few more months until the growth starts happening and the minerals hit the ground.
All right, we've got Michael Lee on the line from Backwoods Life. They have been on the Sportsman Channel for 14 years now, and this guy is a character. I know this one's going to be a fun episode to do, and to add even more fun to the equation, not only do we have Adam Cruz, but we've also got Kyle Bennett, who is going to be filling in for Adam, who's actually out of the country. And it turns out Adam could make it. So he's sitting in a hotel room in the Dominican Republic. So welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. I can see we're going global already. So that's great to know right out of the gate.
Deep down south. Deep
down in the Dominican, we'll get
way down south.
That's just below
I told you
Atlanta,
guys,
right?
Yeah, I told you guys not to do that joke.
Too late.
Yeah. So we're already off the rails here, but Michael, can maybe first of all, I know you've had a lot of success with turkey hunting so far. Can you kind of give us an update on your season?
Yeah, I went 3 times, killed 3, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
All right, thanks for the interview. We'll catch you next time.
I don't like to brag or anything, but I may be the greatest ever. I don't know. The jury's still out. No, I started off opening weekend in Florida, and I was lucky. I was hunting down there with a buddy of mine, Jeremy Nogle, right outside of Gainesville area. And second morning of the hunt, we got one to come in, and I got a shot at him. So we tagged that first one in day number 2. And so then I took a break for 4 days until Georgia started, and my dad and I went opening morning in Georgia here on our farm, and we killed 2 right off the roost in about 20 minutes. So then I took another week off and went back down to Florida and sat down with my buddy Chad Parker. Literally, I called twice. 2 came in, and we killed one of them. So that's my turkey season in a nutshell. That's 100% accurate right there.
Yeah. Do you even have any tags left?
I got 2 more in Georgia. I'm leaving Wednesday, actually going out to South Texas to hunt with Bonnie and Mike from Legends of the Fall. And we went out there last year and had a good time with them, so hopefully we can repeat that. And then coming back home for a couple of days, then headed to Missouri to hunt with Kenyon Bankston from Southern Boys Outdoors. And hopefully we can fill a couple tags up there. And that's hopefully getting turkey season kind of broke in good for me.
No Miriam's in the plan. It sounds like you got most of them lined up.
Well, it was in the plan, but I had this thing called a 15-year anniversary on May the 10th, so that threw a monkey wrench into my Miriam's hunt for this year. So,
oh man, you're not supposed to get married during turkey season. That's a no-no.
Well, we'll see. In Georgia, it goes out like May the 15th, and by May the 10th, it's 100 outside, so you don't want to go. So I thought I was good until I really expanded things out to, diversify throughout the country. And oh well, I guess technically I did kill a Miriam's in May of last year, so I would have done the slam in one calendar year. If does that count? Like the golf slam, in a calendar year.
Right.
Yeah, I'm reaching.
I'll count it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'll write you up a certificate.
All right.
So can you, I guess, just kind of give us your background growing up hunting? I know you live in South Georgia. I guess how'd you get started hunting, and I guess carry us up through what you do now with Backwoods Life.
Oh man, I really growing up I fished a lot. My dad, he was kind of, I guess, a semi-professional bass fisherman as I was growing up, and I didn't hunt a whole lot. I did a little bit, some dove hunting with my dad and grandparents and stuff like that, and uncles and so forth. But I didn't really get into deer hunting until I was in college. I did kill my first deer when I was like 11, but I didn't really spend a lot of time out there. And then when I got to college, my dad kind of backed off the fishing side, so we went hunting a lot more, and we just spent more time at the deer camp and all that fun stuff with my grandfathers, my uncles, my cousins, and just really took off on this whole deer hunting obsession, if you will. And then I got into turkey hunting about the same time. I was probably, I think I killed my first turkey when I was 20 or 21, and just kind of been downhill since then. So I've been around it my whole life, and I don't know, man. The last I look at it, I mean, I'm 40 now, so probably the last 15, 20 years has just been wide open with it.
So, Michael, we have a little debate going on internally at Down South Hunting, and we're trying to figure out, our guests especially, what do you like doing more, deer hunting or turkey hunting? If given the chance, would you want to hunt November or April?
That's a totally unfair question. Just throw that out there ahead of time. And I get that a lot. I mean, you'd be surprised. I got that question like almost every day this week from somebody. But I'll be honest about it. I'm a seasonal person. Like in the spring, I cannot think of anything I'd rather do than shoot a gobbler in the face. And in the fall, I could care nothing about a turkey. I just want to shoot a big deer. And in the summer, I want to catch a fish. And in the winter, I want to rest because deer season has worn me out and I don't want to do nothing.
All right. So as long as we're solving debates for the podcast, Adam and I last week had a little bit of a debate. I imagine with the show, you've done some hunting out west as well. Would you give up your entire fall season? You still get your spring turkey, but you give up your whole fall season to go hunt elk out west for 1 week solid?
No. Not at all, man. I mean, I like elk hunting, don't get me wrong. I've shot elk, mule deer, antelope, but whitetails crank my tractor. And every time I shoot one, I want to shoot another one. So I'm going to be busy all fall doing that instead of chasing elk for a week.
Let's check this. Let's say that you have a crummy place to hunt whitetails. Would you still pick whitetail hunting over elk hunting out west?
Well, all right. So give me an example of crummy now. Like, I'm not going to see a deer all season.
No.
Like you have to hunt the areas that I usually hunt.
Let's say you have a chance to kill one mature whitetail. That's it. That's all you got. One mature whitetail.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's put this in perspective because I hunted with some guys in Iowa this past fall. Okay. And they're from New Hampshire. And down here where we hunt in Georgia, and I know I'm kind of getting off the topic just a little bit, but I'm coming back, I promise. Where I hunt in Georgia, we see a lot of deer. I mean, you go hunt and you don't see 5 or 6 deer every time you go. It was a bad day. These guys were telling me that they hunt in New Hampshire and even in Maine, and they hunt from daylight to dark every day for a week straight in whatever brutal cold, and hopefully they'll see 1 to 4 deer from daylight to dark in a week. I would totally quit deer hunting if I had that. Altogether, I would literally take up like making sweaters or something. I don't know.
I'd move.
Yeah, I definitely would
Exactly.
do that. But yeah, but if I was faced with that situation versus 1 week of elk hunting, I'm all over the elk hunt for a week.
I feel like we're really kind of twisting the whole debate.
I think so, but it's fun.
This is not twisting. This is real world stuff going on here. Like where I deer hunt, I mean, I have an opportunity literally maybe to kill one mature whitetail. So why wouldn't I just rather go out west and experience 1 full week? No one can bother me. No one can call me. No one can email me. And I can experience bugling elk in your face, screaming at you. I'll take that every time.
I think the obvious answer to the question is that we all need to do both every year for the rest of our lives.
And Kyle brings common sense to the conversation. Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
Or you can just
the man who has not been married, obviously.
That's also true.
But more power to him, because if I was in your shoes, Kyle, I'd be doing exactly the same thing as you. All right, so Michael, tell me about the farm you got in Georgia. I know you got a family farm you work on. You guys do a lot of habitat stuff. I know you do food plots and that kind of stuff. And I know that I'm assuming that's where you spend the majority of your time when you're hunting in Georgia.
Um, yeah, I mean, when I'm hunting in Georgia, I've had other pieces of property that I spend a lot of time on too. I had a really good lease that I lost this year. I killed a couple really good bucks off of it this past fall. But yeah, the family farm is actually, my grandfather bought it back in the 40s, 50s, and pieced it together with his brother, and so we kind of have that together. We lease some of it from family, and then we have our property that we own, and we have these about 700 acres or so. That's just kind of like our little sanctuary, if you will. We've kind of managed it the best we could, and put a lot of antler king food plots in, stuff like that, to help the habitat. And it's made a huge difference. We've got a good deer population, and turkey populations are usually pretty good. We've had a couple down years here and there, but can kill a few birds off of there each year. And I don't know. I haven't killed. I didn't kill a buck off of it last year. Like I said, I had this other piece of property I did, but I'm pretty selective. Not that that's a big deal to us. I mean, we just kind of shoot whatever makes us happy. We don't really have a size limit. We don't try to let them all grow to be 27 years old or anything like that. It's just one walks out and cranks your tractor, then lay them down.
What kind of habitat stuff? You mentioned that you do food plots. What other kind of habitat stuff are you doing on your property?
Well, we've got a lot of agriculture, and we've got a creek, the pretty good sized creek that runs through our property into a big pond that we have on the backside. And so we've got kind of hardwood bottoms. It's pretty flat. There's not a lot of elevation change by any means. Like I said, some row crop fields that they plant. This year we're going to plant some corn and probably cotton on there. Throw peanuts in there from time to time. But then we got a lot of plantation pines, different ages of just old southern pine trees that we do a lot of habitat control with, burning and keeping everything mowed and fertilized and looking pretty. So it's a pretty diverse piece of terrain. But we look at it as if a deer or turkey goes hungry, it's their own fault because they've got food pretty much year round.
Right. So you do keep stuff in the spring for the deer and the turkeys?
Yeah, I mean, usually what'll happen with our when we plant in the fall, we do a pretty diverse mix of like I said, we plant a lot of Antler King products, and one of those things is their trophy clover. So this time of the year, we've got some of the prettiest lush clover patches that you can imagine. The other stuff may have been graded down, but now this stuff's taking off as it warms up, and the turkeys and deer really benefit from it greatly.
As you begin preparing to put food plots in the ground, what are you considering most, deer or your turkeys, and which one are you really focused on getting the food and the right habitat in your area?
Well, really, it's both, and with the mixtures we plant and the controlled burns we do, and the supplemental feed and everything. I mean, you really draw all of the above in, and that's where we've been able to just grow our population. When I first started just deer hunting there, I think I was around 15 the first time I went, and I think I saw 3 deer. And I'd hunt all season and might see 20 deer, and now you'll see that in 2 or 3 sits. So the population in the area overall has grown, but we really, fine-tuned our property to do as much of the carrying capacity as we can hold. And turkey's the same way. I mean, we used to hunt all season just to kill one turkey, and like I don't know, we've already killed 3 or 4 off of there in a couple weeks off the season now. So, it's a work in progress always, as any piece of property, but we've kind of tried to do the best we can what we got to maximize it.
So it sounds like y'all had this property for a long time and weren't really doing any habitat improvements in the beginning, but you started over time to do some habitat improvements. What made you start doing those habitat improvements, and what was one of the first things that you really put into place?
Well, the reason we didn't years ago is there just weren't many deer. I mean, you would literally hunt all season, hopefully to see a handful of deer. Just the population was not there. And as that grew, we also had other places to hunt. So we would lease a lot of property from timber companies and stuff like that, and areas of Georgia that had, higher deer density population. So, we would go and see a lot of deer, and maybe, kill some smaller deer than what our farm would hold, but you just didn't have to hunt as much to see, just like you said a while ago, one mature buck all season if you're lucky. But so as those properties, we kind of went away from leasing property as ours got better and better. And probably the last 10 years, I would say, we've really focused on habitat improvement and putting in all the nooks and crannies and acreages of food plots that we could, and making sure that, we got supplemental feed going in and control burns and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess the last 10 years is really when we kind of put all that effort into it, and we've seen a great benefit from it.
You mentioned that you've had some good success already turkey hunting this year. How do you usually approach a turkey hunt on your home property? Say you're going in blind, you don't know exactly where you didn't roost a bird the night before. How are you approaching that hunt? Where are you typically going to go? Just explain that to us, please.
Well, on the home turf, if you will, I mean, I've got history on my side, so I know spots that they usually hang out in, places they like to go. We've got a couple spots on the farm that, I mean, it's like, just piles of birds have been shot by this one tree, because that's where they like. That's their strut zone. That's where the hens kind of in that area nesting, whatever. So the gobblers are there. And if I just going in blind, say I hadn't done any homework or anything, I'd probably just go to one of those spots and see if I heard one and see if what came in. But we run our trail cameras pretty much year round, so I'll have a couple gobblers pegged here or there, just from our covert cameras where I can check them on my phone no matter where I'm at. So I've did that homework before the season started this year, even though that doesn't guarantee you're going to be on them, because these Easterns we got are kind of, a lot of them have a PhD. They don't really gobble a whole lot sometimes, and are really stubborn almost all the time. So we did get pretty lucky there opening day.
Oh, trust me, I know how that is. And, in my experience, knowing the lay of the land will kill turkeys more than calling or anything else, every time pretty much.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I actually had this question the other day. Somebody asked me what's the success to having good turkey hunting land. I said, well, number one, you got to have land with turkeys on it. Number two, you need to know the land, and number three, you need to know where the turkeys go on the land and get in front of them. Don't worry about calling as much.
All right, so say you're going to a new spot, not in Georgia. Say you're going, like you talked about, going to Missouri or going to some of these other places. How are you approaching that kind of hunt? Are you hunting with people on their property, so they're kind of in the same boat you are, where they know what the turkeys are doing? Or are you ever going to completely brand new areas and trying to figure it out?
Well, yeah, yes and no is the answer to that question, or yes and yes rather. Yes, I do go with a lot of people, my friends or whatever, that have property, and they know where the birds are, know areas, and we just kind of get in there and do our thing. But I have gone to places before blind. Maybe a friend of mine said, "Hey, I got this guy that's got some turkeys on his property. He says we can go hunt them," and we'll go not knowing really where to go. And then I kind of approach it as the look and listen. I mean, I ride around, check it out, and look for sign, look for tracks and just different feeding areas or whatever, and listen. That's the biggest thing. I mean, you hear 3 or 4 gobblers, one spot one day. Even if you don't get on them, the next day they're more likely to kind of be in that same area, and you just try to move in and get tighter and tighter. It's just kind of a crapshoot sometimes, and we've been out west before, like places like Kansas and Missouri are good examples, because you can ride around and you see birds out in fields, and then you can kind of move around on them, make a plan. We use fans and decoys with a fan to do some of that turkey reaping, as they call it. Works really well in some places. So I've even done that here in Georgia and Florida a little bit too. But it just adapt to the environment, I guess, is the best advice.
It seems like we're still in the early season here in much of the South, where birds are still flocked up, and I consider this the early breeding season. What does your typical decoy setup look like this time of year? Are you using full strut decoys, jakes, hens, breeding hens? What does that look like for you?
Well, depending on where I'm at, like here on my home turf, if you will, right now, I'm a big fan of the Dave Smith decoys. They don't pay me. They don't they don't sponsor nothing like that. I just like that decoy. I like their Jake decoy. I use that about 99% of the time. they're I guess Jake's kind of a postured up. I called it having his shoulders up a little bit. He looks like he's kind of bowing up, looking for a fight, and I have a feeding hen beside him. And I can't tell y'all how many gobblers have been shot coming and beating up on that decoy and all kind of stuff in between. That's a great tool for me. Like I said, I've killed a lot of turkeys on it. Filmed other people kill a lot of turkeys off of that one decoy. And the other, small percentage of the time around here, I might use a strutter every once in a while. I haven't had a lot of good luck with a strutting decoy on our birds here. But if I go out west, say Kansas or Missouri or somewhere like that, I will use a strutter decoy because that's almost a home run, especially places I've hunted in Kansas. You show a gobbler out there a fan and kind of get in his territory, he's usually going to come jump on it. So I guess it just really depends on where you are, but I guess I encourage using a male decoy of some sorts a lot.
Michael, I'm a new turkey hunter. We put up on our Hunting in the South Facebook page. We asked if there were anybody with questions for you, and Tim Reese, I guess he's new too. He wanted to know if you had any advice for first time turkey hunters this year.
I guess my best advice for anybody that's taking up turkey hunting is be patient and do not overcall. I was guilty of that a lot of times. I'd sit there and just want to make that turkey gobble, and he would sit out there and gobble, and he would never come in. I learned, the hard way a lot of times, making mistakes or bumping birds or what have you, to just sit tight, call as sparingly as possible. I know it's very tempting when one gobbles at your call to make him keep gobbling at your call, but just like the bird I killed this past, Thursday will be a week ago. I sat down. It was 4:00 in the afternoon. I called one time. This bird gobbled in the distance, probably 150 yards away or so. I just sat there for about 5 or 10 minutes, didn't do anything. I called again and gobbled again. And I said, well, that sounded like a little bit closer. And then I didn't call anymore. And 5 minutes later, the two gobblers were walking right up to my decoys. And that's a whole testament. I could have sat there and kept calling and trying to make those birds gobble, but they may have hung up out there at 100 yards away, waiting on that hen to come to them. So that's a hard thing to do, especially for a new turkey hunter, because it's fun to get one to fire off at you. But sitting there and be patient is really a very, very instrumental tool in being a good turkey hunter.
Well, it's kind of funny. I was just watching one of your shows today when Kevin was down in Florida earlier this year. And he had a gobbler run off on him, and he said, I think some people might say I was calling too much.
Well, he just hit a bad note, I think.
Yeah.
No. Who knows? That video, I watched it back, and I asked him, I said, man, what happened? He said, I have no idea. He said that gobbler just decided he wanted to leave. He didn't know if something spooked him or what, but he did come back in later and met his demise.
Yeah, he did end up getting one. I don't know either. It was a foggy morning, and I'm no turkey hunting expert, so I just thought it was funny you were mentioning that when I watched that video earlier today.
Kevin likes to call. Nothing on him. I mean, he's killed a lot of turkeys, but he definitely calls more so than I do.
Well, I'd like to jump to deer hunting a little bit. That's more my wheelhouse, and I know we got a lot of listeners that have been loving the turkey talk, and we probably got a lot that have been wanting some deer talk too. So I figure we'd get some of both out of you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit how you hunt your Georgia property. Like, how big is it, and what's your typical setup? Are you hunting food plots for the most part, or do you try to hit food to bed patterns, or what's your typical way to hunt out there?
Well, it's a evolving process. So what I'll do on the first week of the season, I'll do just about the same thing on the last week of the season, but it changes a lot during the middle. Okay. And with that being said, we have about 700 acres, and we have roughly 25 acres of that is in food plots, and probably close to 200 acres of that is in row crops. So some of our fields are, they've got a county road that goes by them, or they're, behind houses or whatever. So they're not ideal for really setting up and getting a shot at a deer without it, during daytime hours for sure. So we'll spend a lot of times hunting either in between those fields early season, and we'll sit on food plots. We'll sit on the food plots almost all year, just because they're really a good food sources that we've got established in places that are close to bedding areas, or really good travel areas, or all of the above. We've got a lot of thick cover on our property for the most part, so it's really a good area overall with diverse habitat. So that's why I'm saying it's a moving strategy. So early season, the mornings are pretty tough because the deer are already usually feeding either in a field or in a food plot, or in South Georgia, we can hunt over bait, so we can put corn out, we can put mineral blocks, attractants, whatever you want to hunt over. We can do that, but morning times, early season are usually kind of tough just because of the deer already being on their feet and out and about. So the afternoon is where we really kind of target on things. But as the weather patterns come in, the cooler weather comes in, the rut starts to kick in, maybe late October, but definitely by early mid-November it's rolling. We kind of transition to hunt more woods in the mornings, still hitting the food plots in the fields in the evening and stuff like that, because that's when the does kind of come out to feed a little bit more. And then back late season, the mornings are a little bit iffy just because of the deer coming out of the rut. They're just moving more at night, hunting pressure, whatever. And then afternoons right there before dark, they'll hit the food plots real hard, especially if it's cold. So it's kind of a evolving process, but there's method to the madness for sure.
Do you set up most of your stands before the season starts up, or are you hunting mobile with the climber, or hang on? How are most of your stands set up?
The majority of them we will kind of already have in place, especially with them being on food plots, because we'll position maybe a couple stands for different winds. And we rifle hunt down here too, so we have some redneck blinds and stuff like that to rifle hunt out of, and different homemade shooting houses, if you will, that can cover a whole food plot or field edges and stuff. So those are usually in place, all the time. But we will move around. We'll move a climber in different places, or we may go hang a lock on or move some tripods around or something like that if we're picking up on something that's kind of different than the norm. But that's also the good thing about having a piece of property you've hunted for so many years is you kind of know where the deer are and when to hunt certain spots. So there's one spot in particular that I killed, the biggest deer I've ever killed on the farm. I killed it Thanksgiving Day. You can hunt that stand September and October, and you probably won't see a buck at all. But that magic little time in November, they get cranked up, and that's a great time to sit there and see bucks. And then late season, you may or may not see any. So it's kind of just knowing that property and having a lot of history there that really helps us.
Is that about when the peak rut is, right around Thanksgiving for you?
I think what happens around Thanksgiving and then into the first part of December, what we've got is the real, when I call the peak of the rut, is when the bucks are actually locked down with the does. And what we have like Thanksgiving, early December, is when they come off of those does. So they're looking for another doe. That's, I think, our best time to kill the bigger mature bucks, because instead of, early, I think what they do is they let the smaller bucks run the does pretty hard. They get the doe worn down, and when she's ready to breed, the bigger guy just steps in there and takes her. And so when he comes off of her, then he's looking for the next one, and that's when he's more vulnerable.
I've seen you guys use the ghost blinds too. How do you typically use those when you're hunting?
The ghost blind, my preference really is more to use it for turkey hunting, the shorter one. I killed a bunch of turkeys using that thing. Deer's a little bit harder. The bigger shadow hunter, I think, or whatever it's called, I can't remember the predator. I'm sorry. It's a little bit bigger and bulkier to move around. Deer can kind of pick you off over the top of it a little bit with your head movement and bow movement and stuff. So you just kind of be careful. But if it's in a spot where we can't get a ladder stand or a lock on or something like that in there, we may tuck one of those kind of in the bushes and cut a little hole out, and they work pretty well.
So you mentioned gun and bow hunting. How are you deciding what you're going to use on a given day? Do you have a preference, or is whatever's in season?
And whatever I wake up and feel like. It's just a preference.
Cool.
I mean, honestly, it depends on how my season's going. I mean, I'll be truthful about it. If I've shot a few deer with my bow. I may break the gun out and try to shoot one with it, and then go back to bow hunting, or I may just keep gun hunting. And also, if I've had no luck at all, I'll definitely break the gun out and go ahead and get some of the pressure off, to put some meat in the freezer and fill a couple tags. So, here at home, it's kind of just whatever I feel like doing and wherever I feel like hunting that time.
Michael, I'm kind of in your situation. I've got a home farm in Mississippi that I hunt on majority of the time and do lots of habitat work and have a lot of permanent stands. Been hunting for a long time, but I also like to make a yearly trip out to the Midwest and go hunt the rut up there. So I'm sure you do the same thing. I've seen some of your videos. Y'all do some hunting, I think, in Kansas, maybe some other states. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what are your favorite states to hunt in the Midwest? Where are you planning to hunt this fall, and kind of how do you approach those trips?
Well, I'm a fan of Kansas, Ohio, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Texas, Oklahoma, because I can hunt over corn. And I mean, and I don't mean that as bad as it sounds. But I will say it does change the game, and being able to hunt over, like in Kansas, is a great example of this. Since you mentioned Kansas, we've got some friends out there. They got some good property. We've had a lot of good success, but being able to have deer on camera, we have them patterned. That are in there coming over there to you can hunt over bait. It's legal, so why not do it? And that doesn't mean that 170-inch deer are going to walk in there and start eating corn and get a shot. I mean, we hunt like the travel routes to and from those spots. I mean, we may sit 100 yards off of corn, just because that buck, a lot of times the doe comes there and eat, and he's just going to sit out there and watch her. And then when she leaves, he's going to hop back on her and stuff like that. So, but having an environment where you really got these deer kind of pinpointed, at least into a block of woods or, a travel corridor or creek bottom or whatever, where they're coming to feed, more so than just 200 acres of corn stretched out over Illinois, to roll the dice that they may be on this end of the field one day and the other. It's a big variable. And I know some people may give me flack for that, but, I'm hedging my bets. A lot of times I got that tag, and I've only got 3 or 4 days to get it done, or 5 days to get it done. So, I mean, I want every advantage I can get. I don't have the luxury of sitting out there and hunting 20, 30 days, throughout the season and waiting on that buck to give me a shot walking down this one trail or scrape line or whatever the case may be. And I don't do that in Georgia either. I mean, I hunt the same way, no matter where I'm at, by the laws and so forth. But I do like hunting, Illinois and Iowa. I went there this past fall. I drew my bow tag for Iowa the first time I ever hunted up there, and I shot a nice buck up there. It took me 5 days to really get a shot at one. Saw some nice deer. They were locked down with does, and just hit there at the wrong time. It was the right time to see big deer, but it was the wrong time to actually get a shot at one, unless that doe walked right by you. So, with that being said, I do like to hunt states where it is legal to hunt over bait and kind of increase your odds a little bit that way.
Michael, I have the most off-the-wall question in down south hunting podcast history. It's not legal for me to hunt over bait in the state of Tennessee. Just I'll preface it with that. But let's say that I had access to a new farm in Kentucky and I could throw corn out. I mean, what's your strategy about where you place your bait? Is it in a travel route? Is it close to bedding? I mean, what are you thinking about as you prepare to throw out some bait for a deer?
Yes, that's the best answer I got. I mean, all of the above. I mean, you just want to put it initially in a spot where deer will find it. And what we'll do a lot of times, is we'll find a spot and say, okay, whether it's a travel route or if it's in the edge of a field. Honestly, one of the best spots to put corn is in a cornfield that's been cut, because the deer already come there to eat corn. Now you just kind of keeping them coming there to eat corn. But with that being said, you just want to put it in a spot where it's either close to a bedding area or on a travel route or a spot they're already feeding, and put your cameras out. And I'm a big fan of cameras to see what you have But just because you're not getting a picture of a certain deer on the camera doesn't mean he's not there. That doesn't mean he hadn't walked by the camera, you know. So I don't know. I guess that's an open-ended question. There's no real super rhyme or reason on my side other than I just put it in areas where I think deer are traveling or coming already, and I just want to see what they'll do to it.
Do you find that hunting over a new bait pile, like something you just poured out, would be more effective than over, say, a feeder?
Yeah, I won't say a new bait pile, but historically, what I've seen is on a lot of places where there's a feeder per se, where that's a spinner feeder most of the time, the bigger bucks usually don't just walk right under a spinner feeder and start eating. And I don't hunt them that way. I may hunt, 100 yards, 200 yards off of that feeder on a spot where, okay, this deer's bedding in here and he's going to go over there to feed, but I'm going to hunt the travel route between the two to get a shot at him because he may not get to that feeder until dark. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation, just like a food plot or a field. I mean, that buck may not walk out there until it's nighttime. So you got to kind of do your homework and get him kind of on the way in or out most of the time.
So, you mentioned all these states you like to hunt. Where are you planning on hunting this coming fall? Have you decided yet?
I'm working on some of that. Definitely going to Oklahoma. I already got that one down. Going to Wisconsin. I'm probably going to go to Ohio, and I'm just trying to open the air on a few more places. I'm waiting to see where some of the tags I put in for an elk tag in Arizona. See how that plans out. And I always add stuff. I'm bad about just, okay, well, what am I going to do next week? I don't have anything scheduled. Let me call somebody and see what's going on, and we'll hop on, or somebody will call me up and say, hey, man, it's going to look good next week. Why don't you come visit? We'll hunt a little bit. So we'll do that and probably hit Alabama. I hunt over there about every year. And, of course, I'll be here in Georgia. I'm working on getting hopefully a new piece of property here in Georgia that's got a lot of deer and turkeys and hogs on it. So that'll be a lot of fun if that comes about.
So are you mostly hunting on, friends' properties, or do you ever hunt with outfitters when you travel?
Yeah, I mean, I hunt with outfitters a good bit. I would say it's about 50-50. In turkey season, I hunt with more friends than I do outfitters. Nothing against outfitters. I mean, like I said, I got a lot of friends that are outfitters. But to me, with an outfitter, I like to kind of have somebody that's been referred to me, or somebody that I know that goes with this outfitter, and that they're the real deal and have done their homework, and we can get the job done in a short amount of time. Because a lot of times what we do, we don't have I can't hunt a place all season, so we've got 4 or 5 days to get it done. So you got to kind of pick and choose, and nothing against anybody out there, but just you're trying to hedge your bets with the best odds for what everything we got in this.
Do you try to chase the rut around as you're traveling? Like if you're planning on going out Midwest, are you trying to plan that like the beginning of November and try to get home for that Thanksgiving time? Do you try to hunt the rut different places you go?
Honestly, no. The rut to me can be one of the hardest times to hunt, period. And I know it's fun to be out there because you never know what you're going to see, but most places is bow season during the rut. In your just kind of the states we just talked about, most all of that is still bow season, except for here in Georgia. It is gun season then, but I've kind of got my strategy there I talked about a while ago, hunting that around Thanksgiving. One, because it's time to be home with family anyway, so I might as well knock all that out at one time. But hunting the rut, I mean, I've been in Ohio one year. I hunted up there with Ben Rising, who is a great deer hunter and has killed giant deer. And we were up there during the rut, if you will, and it was great because we saw giant deer, but it was horrible because they would not step off of a doe. You couldn't get them to come to a call. You couldn't get them to come to eat. They were just locked down with does, and if that doe didn't walk by, you didn't get them. And I've also hunted places where during that bow season, they're rutting and they're running around. You don't get a shot. You might see that big deer, but you just don't get a shot. So, I mean, I'm much more of a fan of when they're post-rut, where they're hitting the food real hard, or pre-rut, where they're kind of maybe looking a little bit, but they're still, hitting the food sources.
You've mentioned quite a few hunters that I'm familiar with based off of social media and outdoor TV shows, YouTube, and that sort of thing. If you had to choose one guy to go deer hunting with, and y'all were going to an area that's completely unknown to both of you, and you wanted to hedge your bets on getting it done to kill a mature whitetail, who would that individual be?
Holy crap!
Curveballs.
Yeah, that's a tough question right there.
Yeah,
I mean, I know so many people.
that wasn't in the show prep.
Yeah. You didn't send me that one ahead. No. Man, I don't know, to be honest with you. It kind of there's more to the situation. I'm a way overthinker of these questions. I apologize for that, but I don't know, man. I know so many.
He's about to
people
say
out there.
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus would be
should.
a good one to go with. I mean, he probably would have a lot of insight of what's up. So I just throw this out there. I would rather go with my buddy Brantley Gilbert than anybody, because I don't care if we see a deer or not. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna laugh.
That's a pretty good answer in my book.
There you go.
I'll just throw it because Brantley he will tell you right quick. He's not the best deer hunter in the world. We probably wouldn't even see a deer, but we would have fun. And to me, that's fun's more important than killing everything. So how about that?
I like it. What's your favorite place to deer hunt as far as state is concerned?
Wherever they got the biggest corn pile. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man,
I tell you, everybody's gonna listen to this thing. I'm just like, all I do is sit on a pile of corn. That's the farthest from the truth. I'm just cutting up. But speaking of corn, I do like Texas a lot.
Texas got whole rows of corn.
Well, Texas is fun because you're gonna see a lot of deer. You're gonna see a lot of bucks. And I've killed some good bucks in Texas, and the free range, Texas, not the high fence Texas, because that's a whole nother podcast show right there. But I don't know. I mean, Texas is a lot of fun just because of the numbers you'll see and some good deer. I've had a lot of great success in Ohio. That's a really good state. I've been very lucky there and killed some really big deer. So probably those two, and Kansas as well. I mean, I'm going to sit here and name about every state I've ever hunted in if I keep this up. So I'll just leave it at that.
Did you say that you're hunting Texas coming up for turkeys?
Yeah, next week, the Wednesday. We're flying out Wednesday morning, and we'll be there for a few days.
Good deal. I just got back from hunting South Texas for turkeys. I love it. It's a target rich environment indeed.
What part were you in?
I was down south around Goliad, which is down kind of around Victoria, Beeville, kind of due north of Corpus Christi. I got a buddy who's got a little ranch down there. It's kind of turkey heaven.
Yeah, I'm actually going down, and we're hunting just outside of Corpus Christi there on the King Ranch. And we hunted there last year, and we killed 8 in 3 days. So hopefully we can have some fun like that, which we can't shoot as many this year. They got their turkey tags cut down because the ranch we hunt on, they only get so many tags per year for deer and turkeys. So I think we might have shot too many last year. No, I'm just kidding. There's no such thing in Texas. We shot 8 last year, and at the last morning, buddy Tom went with me, we doubled. And when we went and picked the birds up, I saw like 14 more gobblers standing down the Sendero. So we just eased out and let them alone. So,
yeah, I spend a lot of time hunting in South Mississippi, and we consider those turkeys some of the toughest around. They definitely can make you feel bad about yourself. But I always say Texas is kind of a confidence booster.
Yeah, if you're in the right spot. I mean, Kevin does the show with me, and we hunted this little piece of property. It wasn't 150 acres or so, and the first day we hunted, by 2 o'clock that afternoon, we'd killed 4, 2 apiece, and we kind of felt bad because we thought we were going to shoot out all the turkeys on the property if we kept going.
Well, Michael, you obviously have a little bit of don't care in you, and I mean, I could tell from watching the show, you guys basically, it seems like a major part of the show is just going out and having fun with your buddies and your dad and whatever. How do you balance? It seems like in the industry there's a lot of pressure to shoot big deer and get attention that way. Like, how do you balance like basically just going out and having fun and the pressure to put out a good TV show?
Well, I think and I don't know how long you guys watch your stuff or how many episodes you watch or any of that stuff, but we've been doing this a long time. When we first started, we were really, Kevin and I were hunting for the most part here in South Georgia on the weekends. I mean, we were working 40-plus hour a week jobs, hauling butt on Friday, getting in the deer stand, and going back home Sunday to go to work again all week. And we kind of prided ourselves, and we were the average guys. We still are. I'm not saying we're not now. We've just been blessed to do this long and have a few more opportunities to go different places. But, I grew up where I'm sitting here in my office right now looking at the first deer I ever got mounted. It's probably a 115-inch 10-point. And I was as proud of that deer as this 170-inch deer I got over here to the left of him. It's all about where you started and where you're going and where you're going to end up. But we've always been not worried about having to kill the biggest deer in the woods. We want to go out there and have fun, number one, show where we're hunting and what that area has to offer to anybody that's interested. And then, kill a deer that maybe other people would have shot or would not have shot. And I don't know. Everybody's kind of got their own. I mean, if you go out and you shoot a 4-point every year, I'm proud of it just as I am shooting a 10-point. So it's more about who we are and what we do, not necessarily how big or whatever we come home with. It's always been about having fun and kind of showing wherever we're hunting at and what them places are about, and not really alienating anybody through the show. And I'm not knocking the people out there that their quest is to kill 4 200-inch deer a year or nothing, but if a 120 walks by me on my farm and I want to shoot him, I'm going to. Just as if a 170 walks by. I mean, I tell everybody, if I'm going to kill that 170, that 140 better not walk by first. I mean, that's just the way it is.
So speaking of being around for a whole bunch of years, I consider you kind of I guess maybe the king of social media in the hunting world. I think maybe you give Tiffany Lakoski a run for her money, and maybe
Wait a second now. She's a lot prettier than I am. We just throw that out there and get that out of the way. So.
Yeah, well,
I will agree with that. Sorry, Mike.
That's not what we're talking about here.
This has turned.
What kind of advice do you have for hunters on social media? I know you got something to say about this. Like I said earlier, I know you got some don't care in you. And what do you got for advice for I guess all hunters on social media?
My biggest thing is do your thing. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Don't worry about what anybody else says. Trust me, I have, if you looked at our Backwoods Life page on Facebook and you saw how long the ban list was, you'd blow your mind, just because people are going to hate on what you're doing. People are jealous by nature. Because they're not you. And that might be you that hunts on 100 acres and kills that 4-point and somebody gives you flack. Who cares? Go out there, have fun. But, I'll add to that, the people in the industry or that want to be in this industry that we're doing. Social media is the way that you're going to get any kind of attention if you want to work with a company. And I don't like the term pro staff, but if you want to do that or whatever the case may be, go out there and you can't care what anybody thinks. Really, you got to put your videos, you got to put yourself, you got to put your photos. Don't worry about it. I mean, just be yourself. If people don't like you, get over it. If people do like you, keep doing what you're doing. Simple as that.
So I have another question that's a little bit off the wall. One of my buddies here lately, Alex Comstock, just wrote an article about hunters doing unethical things, just unethical behavior in the woods in order to kill big antlered bucks. What's your opinion on why hunters are out there doing that? What makes them do things that they normally wouldn't do to kill a big deer?
Well, I mean, I think jealousy's got a lot to do with it. I mean, if you see these other people and social media, honestly, is they say money is the root of all evil, but right next to it is social media, because I think, everybody wants the people to click that like button with them sitting there holding a big deer. And I think that plays on, either they want to impress their buddies now because, I apologize. I don't know how old you guys are, but when I first started hunting, we didn't have, cell phones that took pictures. We didn't have obviously any kind of social media. So basically, you took pictures with a still camera, or maybe if you're lucky, you had an old Polaroid in your hunting stuff, something like that. But you took a picture, and then you had to physically see somebody to show them that picture of what you killed, or you showed them your deer rack or the mount or whatever. There was no way to really be all in somebody's face 5 minutes after you kill a deer. And now you've got how many social media outlets to go post on. And I think that drives people to think that because they can kill big deer by whatever means, if you will, like we're talking about, and be able to post that stuff on there and get this notoriety, and I use that term loosely based on the topic here, but it's more to impress people and say, look at me, than it is actually, hey, I want to go be proud when I look at that animal on the wall that I filled the tag ethically, and I, lay my head down at night and say, hey, I did the right thing. So it's more about the grip and grin than anything nowadays, and that's not a good place for hunters in general.
So it kind of sounds like the way you're talking that you think there's a lot of negative outcome that's come from social or hunting and social media together.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind because look how easy it is for somebody to post a picture and then other hunters are going to jump on it because it's not big enough, or you shot it with a gun instead of a bow, or over a feeder instead of on a trail, or a food plot instead of a mountainside, or whatever. And then the anti-hunters can just hit you even harder, and especially the ladies nowadays. And we won't get started on the lady side of things unless you guys really want to. But my point with that is the anti-hunters jump on the ladies first because they think they're weaker and they're easier to attack. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I really just started posting a lot of hunting stuff on there just to see what would happen. And I've gotten attacked by more anti-hunters on LinkedIn than I did Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter added together. So it's been kind of an eye-opening experience for me. I made a post on Instagram the other day. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it was, and I may have put it on Twitter too. But actually, I got this just straight up hate message from this guy after he commented on one of my posts, and I reposted his comment. But he tried to rip me a new one. He wanted me to meet him in Florida, and he's a ex-Marine, and he was going to show me how to fight and how to be hunted and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? You're a dork. Bye. That's just whatever.
Everybody's a tough guy on the internet, right?
Oh, of course, man. But I look at it like, well, this guy, if I'm really an emotional person, this guy's threatening my life, right? Technically, he did threaten me in that message, but I'm not worrying about that kind of stuff because there's idiots all over the world. But social media brings all that to the forefront. So by you, anybody, us, whoever, posting stuff like that, I don't think you're opening yourself up to that kind of attack. And to me, we need to obviously stick together instead of talking bad about each other on social media in the hunting world, because last time I checked, numbers weren't growing in the right direction.
Do you feel like there's any positive? We talked about the negative, and it's pretty common, conversation that's happening all the time as far as with the anti-hunters and the hunters today and the kind of outlook of our hunting heritage. But do you feel like there's any positives that can come out of social media and hunting?
Absolutely. And I think that everybody in this industry, and I try to tell this to as many people that will listen, and I'm glad you asked this question, because we are in a time right now, if we're going to ensure the future of hunting and the outdoors and everything that we love, we need to be using social media, because if we're not going to reach the future. You look at the age demographics on Facebook, they're older than Instagram, that are older than Snapchat, that are, younger than Twitter, if you will. But we've got all these different subsets of age classes throughout all these different mediums. And if we as an industry, Backwoods Life, Matthews, Hoyt, Remington, Federal, whoever, needs to be using all of these outlets to reach our future hunters, because that's the only way we're going to get them now. They're not reading magazines. They're not watching Sportsman Channel and Outdoor Channel as much as they were. They still are, but they're hopping on the Netflix type platforms and Hulu type platforms and YouTube. And we need to be out there pumping out good quality, positive content to say, look, man, this hunting stuff's pretty cool. You need to check it out. And, from our standpoint, we get messages all the time from younger guys and gals that want to hunt, that are learning how to hunt. Just like you guys are asking me first-time turkey hunting questions. We get those a lot now, more so than we did 5 years ago, all through social media. Hey, I got this little piece of property. I got this buck on camera. How do I kill him? And here I am sitting here with how many years of experience. Not that I know anything more than anybody else in this industry other than the mistakes I've made to make me better at turkey hunting and deer hunting. But I can maybe help this kid out, and he kills that buck of a lifetime or even the buck of the current lifetime. And now he's really hooked on it. And he's going to take somebody else in there and get them hooked on it. And that's how we got to do this. We've got to use it for interaction. We've got to use it for positivity and not to rip each other a new one because so-and-so is posting about how many pro staffs they're on. We really need to use it for the positive platform that it can be.
Well, man, I think that's an awesome place to try to wrap this thing up. And speaking of positive influence, if you could just start off, I know you got a whole list of platforms you're on, but maybe tell us about your podcast first, because I've been listening to that, and that's I think that's a great positive influence. So maybe start out telling us what that platform is and how you're using it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are way more advanced in the podcast world than we are. It's just Kevin and I, and we get on, do our Backwoods Life podcast about once a week if we have time, every other week at most or at least. And we just talk about whatever. Like really, we just hit record. We don't have anything, predetermined. We talk about what we did last week, what we're going to do next week, and then we just kind of roll with it. We tell hunting stories and we talk about current topics and just kind of have fun. And I'm, as you guys probably know, after talking to me for an hour now, that I get pretty wound up and passionate about certain things, and I'm not afraid to run my mouth for a few minutes. So you can hop on, iTunes or Google Play or whatever and check out, Backwoods Life podcast. Everything's on our website, backwoodslife.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just go down the list, hit Google and type in Backwoods Life. You'll find us, I promise.
Well, Michael, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's been a real pleasure having you on and talking about turkey hunting, deer hunting, social media. I think this was a well-rounded discussion, and we just appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And like I said, I apologize for getting long-winded at times, but when it comes to this industry and been in it as long as I have, you get pretty passionate about stuff, and wish you guys the best. I appreciate what you guys are doing out there too. So whatever I can do to help, just let me know.
Yeah, well, I didn't feel like it was long-winded. I really enjoyed the conversation, and, I could do this for another hour.
Anytime. Just let me know.
How about you, Kyle? You going to say goodbye to us?
Oh, yeah. I'm here.
My
here.
mute button got stuck a minute ago. So
Yeah,
we're just making a mess at the end of this.
Having problems with mine, but thanks for coming on, Michael, and I appreciate your comments, especially on the social media stuff, man. I just can't echo that enough. We have quite a feat ahead of us of involving new hunters.
No doubt, man. Like I said, we just need to go out there, show us all having fun and staying positive, and we got to let the rest take care of itself.
All right, everybody, make sure you go check out Michael's YouTube page. They got some really good content on there, and check out their podcast. And where I couldn't get back on with the mute button there, I wanted to mention I really like what you guys are doing as far as sharing that your podcast feed with the I don't know if the guy's a pastor or a minister or whatever you're going to call him, but he just gets on there and speaks some truth, and I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, that's our buddy Davey Ferraro. I mean, Davey's like a brother to me. We've known each other for 6 or 7 years or more now, and we hunt together every chance we get. But he's in seminary school up in Kentucky, so every Sunday morning, barring no technical difficulties, he hops on our Facebook page and goes live about 9:30 Eastern time and talks for 30 minutes to an hour, and he tries to record all those and put those on our podcast platform as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up. That'll mean a lot to Davey too.
Yeah, it's church with a hunting twist in it, so you get
that's right.
Get the best of two worlds there.
Perfect.
Well, thanks a lot again for coming on, Michael. I really enjoyed it.
All right, guys, appreciate y'all.
Well, guys, that was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun tonight. We're out down south.
Out down south.
We are out down south.